In this video, I'm going to be going over 3 books that completely changed my life and my perspective. And I guarantee that one of them you have not heard of. Number 1, The Naked Leader Experience. I'm not going to be summarizing the whole book. I'm not going to spoil everything. The whole point is I'm going to give you a glimpse of what this book has so that you can judge on your own and fully read it and experience it yourself. One concept which is amazing from this book, and it's concept of the word that begins with F. We've been taught all our lives, it's been ingrained in us since we're children, and it haunts us, and it becomes a phenomena really throughout our daily lives. And this word is failure, failing. This whole concept, it's with you all the time, and you've been taught it, something you should be afraid of. Don't get close to it. If you fail, then you're on the wrong side. But we switch it up and say, what if you cannot fail? What would you do? Where would you be? And who would you be if you could not fail? Those 3 questions are crazy, honestly, to ponder on. And it's just one of the pages of the book that have completely changed my perspective. Just think about it. Think about those questions. Because of this word that we've been taught about, failing and failure, just think about it and see what goes on. Then we switch over from the concept of failure and what is success? How do we get to success? What is the formula to success? And this book puts it in a really simple and beautiful way. It's 4 steps really. 1 is knowing where you are right now. 2, knowing where you want to go. 3, understanding what you need to do to get where you want to go. And then 4, just doing it. So it dumbed it down to such a simple formula and process that it made so much sense to me. And it's not all this guru systems, it didn't complicate it. It's just, it made it approachable. The idea of success becomes approachable and doable if you follow those 4. And that's what completely shifted my perspective. Then it delves deeper into the concept of risk during this whole success story and the formula behind it. For example, when you want to be happy, you're risking being sad. When you want to be loved, you're risking the idea of never being loved. So the concept of risk is flipped on its side, because in everything in our lives there is risk, and taking the risk is the greatest thing in your life. But by doing nothing, this is the greatest risk on your life. You abandoned it because you did nothing, and everything in your life contains risk. So by abandoning it and doing nothing, you become nothing. So then you are nothing. Those couple pages from the book are honestly mind-blowing, and they shift the perspective. Only the people that risk are the ones that can be truly free, because they can experience life. Then it dives deeper. The book talks about being in the present. How does that affect you? We're always thinking about what's going to happen in the future. Future problems, future solutions, future investments, future everything in the future. And then we reminisce on the stuff that happened in the past, mistakes we did, failures we couldn't get over, and we forget to live in the present. This is completely mind-boggling, the idea behind it. In our life, we're not living the moment. You're always thinking about something that happened or that you think is going to happen. You live in your head. So the idea is just to bring you back to understand that living in the present is the way. And by combining it with other aspects of the book and other concepts you learn, it truly is amazing. And then number 2, honestly, I cheated. There's 2 books. 1, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and 2, The Millionaire Next Door. Honestly, they go hand in hand. That's why I had to include them. Amazing books. They completely changed the trajectory of my life, 100%. I read them 3 years ago, and back then I was about to graduate my mechanical engineering degree, and I fell in love with finance and personal finance, investing, and everything from those 2 books. It completely changed my perspective. I didn't understand all the personal finance stuff, investing, living below your means, basic stuff that sets you up to financial independence and financial freedom. The book goes around and talks about, for example, financial independence. Like, that's the goal. Why? Because it gives you the time freedom. Everything in our lives right now, the goal is to get your time back, because that's the only thing that's limited, and you can't gain it back. That's the only way. Using financial independence and retiring early, or using other income streams to manage to achieve financial independence, not being reliant on a job, or working towards a progress to not become reliant on the job. That's the whole idea behind living below your means. Don't go around spending all your money to impress people you don't care about and then having like 2K car payments per month. Like, crazy concepts. When you think about it, it's like, oh, those are basic. But when you don't know them, they're out of your realm. You don't think about it. So simple, basic concepts in finance and personal finance, basically, behind investments, behind pursuing what degree you want to take, what path you want to follow. Is it a good investment, a bad investment? What's your career going to look like afterwards? Those are all stuff that concepts are embedded in the books. The idea is behind finding a good career, something that will pay you good, and then using that to leverage investing, and using that with personal finance to live below your means, becoming frugal basically. The idea behind it is not to live a bad life and don't spend money on yourself. No, the idea is to have income and expenses, simply increase the buffer over time so that you'll be able to save more, invest more, and you'll take yourself out of what they call the rat race, the matrix. Those two books completely change the perspective. And anyone that wants to take basic understanding of any of those two, honestly, amazing books. Rich Dad Poor Dad and classic, The Millionaire Next Door. Like the idea that most millionaires don't make it from businesses, don't make their money from businesses because it is higher risk. So the idea of getting a high income career, leveraging it to invest, understanding what's an asset, what's a liability. An asset is something that brings you in money. Liability takes money out of your account. So simple stuff, and it's written in a beautiful and simple way you can understand it. That's what the advantage of those two books basically combined gives you a different perspective and truly will set you apart, and you understand something that 99% of people don't care about, don't think about, and they put themselves in worse financial situation, and then over time they cannot retire. It's all due to basic finance stuff, personal finance stuff. And those two books will completely change your perspective on them. And concepts if you don't know and you haven't dived into personal finance, those two books are great, and they'll give you a more of a reasonable and actual actionable steps and actionable ways to understand how millionaires are. They don't look all flashy. They look like everyone. They wear normal clothes. They're all designer, all brand. They don't drive the fancy cars. Some they do, but that's a small percentage. Now you can act and play the role of being someone that's rich using debt, credit cards, and I can do that. Most of them drive 10-year-old plus cars. So it's simple stuff where you understand hey, they're not going around spending all their money. They live below their means. They're frugal. They invest their money. They go behind specific career opportunities that they know they'll be high leverage. They'll get higher income. So it's simple concepts, but truly game changers in personal finance. And number 3, the final book is the 80-20 principle. What is the 80-20 principle? It basically states that 80% of the outcomes will come from 20% of the input and the cause behind it. So, for example, there's a recent study I read. If you do 1 to 4 sets per muscle group in the gym, you would get about 60% of the muscle growth. That's per week. Can you imagine how crazy this concept sounds? You can go in, do 1 set of bench, 1 set of curls, 1 set of pull-ups, and you get 60% of the results. It's mind-boggling. And it shows that the input and output relationship is not balanced. That's the whole concept behind the 80-20 principle, is that they're not balanced, and you should take advantage of the idea that it's not balanced. Use it to your advantage and optimize it for your everyday life. So, for example, the book teaches you basically how to think in this 80-20 concept, and goes over a lot of examples, a lot of stuff. One of them I love actually is how it flips the conventional understanding of some stuff. For example, it says, go for the shortcuts. Don't do it the normal way. You're thinking about, okay, you don't want to cut corners. That's not the way to go. That's how we're taught. But when going for shortcuts, if you're able to get the same result by minimizing all the time, then why not? Be selective. Don't go for all the things. Don't take all your options. Choose carefully. Delegate your tasks, for example. Stuff you don't like to do, you don't enjoy doing. That's one of the concepts that say, okay, delegate them. Use other people's skills. That's the whole idea behind it. There's people with specialties. They know better than you. And so just use those. That's it. It is quite simple and basic when you think about it. But in our everyday lives, you're like, okay, what can I delegate? But that's the whole idea, is to think in your everyday life. What are stuff that can be applied to the 80-20 principle? As they say, if you're a jack of all trades but a master of none. So you need to focus on the things that you can do best and you'd actually excel at, and you have leverage while doing it. So the 80-20 principle tries to sort of stir you towards the stuff that you're great at, you enjoy doing, and you'll be able to, so that the output would be crazy compared to the stuff that you don't want to do and you don't enjoy doing. And what I love about it is the book also gave examples of what are low uses of time and high value uses of time. For example, things that people want you to do, that's a low use of time. Things that have been done the same way, throughout all the years. Things you don't enjoy doing, things that took you like double the amount of time you expect to do. That's low uses of your time. One of them I actually don't agree with is like things that you're not good at doing, but that's the process of learning basically. You don't start out being good at something. You start out, basically that's the learning curve basically behind it. You start out not the best, you start to learn slowly over time, and it's about expectations more or less, not about something you're not good at doing. But if you combine all this list, it's like, okay, what are the high value uses of your time? So, for example, it's that things that advance your overall, oh whoa, big joke. Whoa, English is not Englishing today. Okay, things that advance your overall purpose in life and your goals. If it's something, the activity is hitting that criteria, then okay, that's a high value use of your time. Stuff you've always wanted to do, stuff you enjoy doing, something that's in the 80-20 principle, it's in that relationship. Something if you do it, you'll be able to quadruple or quantify by measurable amounts. Like, okay, if I put a little bit effort, the result would be amazing and great. So just focusing and doubling down on it so that the results would be even more amazing. Another one is things that use your creativity. And the book goes, it lists like 10 for each one. So the book changes the perspective, introduces a new concept to your life and a principle that is apparent in our everyday life and everywhere basically, in business and throughout the whole process. So this completely changes your perspective when you think, okay, what are some things that in my life I can change, optimize, use to my advantage so that it will get me to where I want to go. So it's about collecting those small information from each and every other book and then utilizing it basically and applying it to your life and see where it fits. Not everything from books is correct. Like for example, the one that they mentioned that doing something that you're not good at, that's the process of learning. You learn, that's a learning curve. So the idea is taking the knowledge of someone else, taking what's good or what you feel is good, but that's where it's like subjective. Let's not talk about that. But the idea is it introduces a new concept to you, a new perspective, which then opens up your way of thinking. That's the amazing part of reading new books and actually applying them. And one of those is the 80-20 principle. It completely changed my perspective on things.